Welcome to the Low and Slow podcast.
We're your girls, Crystal and Lakin. If you press play today, trust, you made the right decision.
And know whenever you're listening to this, it's exactly the right time.
We invite you to pull up a seat to the conversation, get curious about your current perspective,
and lean in for the opportunity to see yourself in another woman's story.
We created That Girl Magic because we've been where you are.
Here, the talk is real and the breath is steady.
Let's get into your next mindset shift.
You know how at some point in your healing journey, like the story changes, like not necessarily the facts of what happened to you, but the way that you relate to it. And I think a lot of women think healing means that you just stop talking about it, right? Like, oh, I'm done with that. I've moved on. That if you've really like moved on from something, it just disappears and you never bring it up again and you never feel it again. And you're just, oh, I'm just done. But that's not healing. That's suppression. And today we're going to talk about what actually happens when the story stops running you, right? Like what it looks like when you get to shift the pain from identity, right? Like I'm identifying as this, I'm wrapped up in this, to information. Like what can I learn from this?
Yes, T. And okay, before we even go there, I just want to say if you're listening to this today and you're somewhere in the middle of that shift, right? The in-between that we always talk about, where the story's still raw, right? And you're not sure what it's becoming yet. You're not sure what's coming out of this. I actually don't know if this is information or if I'm quite there yet. This episode is for you because you're not behind. You're right on time. You're meant to listen to this. I've had a client this week tell me your episodes hit right on time. I'm like, yes, they do. They're meant to find you when they're supposed to. And so we're really excited just to chat about this today because this is a specific phase in healing that I don't think we talk about enough, honestly. This is, we either want the healed version or we want the version of us who never talks about it and just keeps it locked away. It's like we're operating on extremes here. And it's in this phase when you are talking about the thing, but like while you're still inside it, that every single time the story comes up out of your mouth, your nervous system is learning to relive it. Right. And like, think about when you keep telling a story over and over and over, right? Your heart rate's up, your chest is tight, you're bracing for impact. Your body is always listening. And right now, because it's hearing that story again, it thinks a threat's happening when maybe that isn't the case.
Yeah. That often gets misread because from the outside, it looks like, you're just stuck or I think a lot of people see it as like seeking attention sometimes, like, oh, I just want to live in this negative space, or like I want someone, and it may be like I want someone to acknowledge it, but it's not necessarily just attention seeking. It's like it's that survival still trying to process itself, and the nervous system hasn't gotten the memo that event is over yet. We've talked about that before, of like reacting in the space of what it was like in the moment of the initial trigger, and so it's not just being dramatic about it. Like it's that safety strategy, and we just need to update that software.
Yeah. So here's what makes it hard sometimes, right? We judge ourselves for being in that phase that even got us to this current phase. Like, why can't I just get over this? Or why is this freaking still affecting me so much, right? And this makes sense because your body doesn't just move on because your brain decided it should and we're done with this. Like the body and the mind are in two separate pages here. So this integration is a process. It's not just a decision. And welcome to the Low and Slow podcast. Yes, that was a long-winded way, but we're happy you're here for the conversation. Guys, this episode's so juicy because we hear this all the time with clients that we work with of like, why can't I just get over it? My mind is telling me, right? I'm doing the mindset work. What's going on with the body, right?
Yeah. Or often we'll see a lot, like there's a lot of resistance. Right. Like, I don't want to go into that because it's going to bring up the feelings that are associated with it. And I don't want to go back to that place. I've dealt with that. I don't want to, well, if it was dealt with, girl, then that shit wouldn't still be coming up. It's coming from somewhere, right? And it's coming from that deep, deep place that you stuffed it and you hope that you didn't have to ever look at it again, but it's not going anywhere when it's sitting in there. And that's where, like, we have to recognize that healing isn't silence. That is a myth. Healing does not mean that you just never talk about it again. Like, we collectively decided that the sign that you've moved through something is that it becomes invisible for some reason. Like, oh, if it's just not present. And that's usually comes with that territory of people pleasing or accommodating or, keeping the peace or holding everybody else's comfort, which comes at a cost. So if you don't mention it, or if you don't feel it in public, or if, you don't have it touching aspects of your current life, then everything's fine. And if you do any of those things, then that means that you must not have done the work. But silence isn't healing. And it's often just suppression, again, that's found a way to look really functional on the outside.
Yeah, it's that shit hiding in the closet. And then you open up the closet and you're shining the light in the dark corners, and you're realizing that shit's still in there. Just because you close the doors doesn't mean it's not there, right? So we could think the room's clean, and then you open that up and a whole bunch of shit falls out. Mm-hmm. And this is where, right, for so many of us, like, when we open the closet, that's maybe the first time we're speaking about the thing out loud, truly out loud, to ourselves, to another person. Maybe we're writing it down for the first time. We've never written this out before, right? Because it's one thing to think these things. It's another thing to say these things. And it's another thing to say it to someone else, right? And have someone else witness you in that. That is when healing is beginning. When you are able to acknowledge it out loud and want to face it and not just hide it, right? Sometimes healing actually sounds like, hey, this happened to me, and I don't need to hide it anymore, right? This is where, like, this is why we have you read it out loud, because it's, let me use my words very intentionally here. It's it's being able to own that story without taking ownership maybe of the meaning that you've made of that story, right? So this is not
allowing yourself to be witnessed in it.
Right. This is not about re-traumatizing yourself. It's allowing the story to actually move, to start to shift the emotion. Like, your body, again, is listening. And for the first time, it's hearing, right? It's starting to feel safe enough to let this go. So that's why we have you say it out loud. That's why talking about it. And again, it's not just talking about it in circles and circles in the same victimhood or the same bullshit story, right? But it's just being able to notice what's happening in my body if this conversation is landing somewhere real, right? Landing somewhere from a place of where I can actually admit this, right? There's honesty, there's clarity. You don't need to fix whatever it's saying, right, when you say it, but you can just notice it, right? And each time that you talk about it, right, it may look different. There's times where I've talked about something. It's like I have found myself being able to talk about really vulnerable moments in a way where I'm like, oh my God, I talked about it this time and I didn't cry. Oh my God, I talked about it this time and I could just own what was true for me without having to relate to someone else about what they experienced. Like, there's so many different times when the more that this happens, can we start to normalize that it doesn't need to look like this pretty bow. Once you're done with 1 or 2 sessions about it, you're done with it.
Yeah. That's where we get into the difference between repetition versus reflection. And this distinction can do a lot of work. There's a difference between repeating a story and reflecting on a story. And the difference is not necessarily how many times you tell the story. The repetition is going to keep you in the same emotional loop, right? Like, same activation, same identity, same conclusion that you got to originally. The reflection creates something new. And ideally, it's a little bit of distance from the story. And we can analyze the meaning that we're making of the story. What is the core belief that we pulled out of that story? And a different relationship to what happened at that time. So, repetition is going to sound like, why did this happen to me? And reflection sounds like, this changed me. Here's what it may have cost me, but this is what I built out of it. This is how I alchemized it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that word. How can we start to alchemize the stories that, like, the reason this episode is called this for a reason, right? It is what happens when you start to move out of just being the story that you're telling, right? And then allowing the story that you're telling to be the thing that allows you to have information or have wisdom or just be a part of your story, be a part in your journey, right? Where it doesn't have to be your entire journey, your entire identity, but it gets to be a part of that. And when you can reflect upon that, when you can start to feel it in your body, when you're in this place where it's not just one versus the other, repetition can feel like sometimes being like pulled under the wave, right? Mm-hmm. Like the story is owning you and eating you, right? Because you're stuck there, right? But your chest is closing. Maybe, your throat tightens, your jaw is clenching, and you're back inside the moment that you're ultimately trying to escape, right? And you're reliving it, right? That's the repeat. Reflection is going to feel different. Again, the feeling, because maybe there's still some weight to it. I don't want to take that off the table. Like there's a ton of stories maybe that were very emotionally charged that have weight. The weight is not just going to dissipate. But there's also some space in it to where you've aired it out a little bit. Why? Because you've talked about it before, right? You can get some breath inside the story. You're not so clenched. You're not having that nervous system response where you're so clenched up about it, to where when you have some space and clarity, this is where another perspective comes in. So you're getting to witness. This is what we talk about, move from participating in the story, believing it, owning it as your identity, and then you're starting to observe the story. You're starting to witness yourself in it. You're starting to catch what's coming up in your body instead of just reliving it. And that's really the shift here. It's like you're shifting out of that wound and you're learning how to hold the wound, tend to the wound, see what you need, right? And when you allow your body to be a part of that conversation, this is when we come back all the time with what we're feeling. What do we need? Because a lot of the times it's a lot of unmet needs when we're telling a story and we're looking for that need from someone else, but who's the one that needs to give ourselves what we need? We do.
Yeah. And the shift from reliving to witnessing is the nervous system work that allows you to stop reading that story as immediate danger. It's not just like a mindset hack, right? Like you can't have one without the other. We have to incorporate the mind and the body. And if your system starts treating it like history instead of a present tense threat, then that's something that we can learn from.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to be real about something for a second, because there's this space in this phase that I think almost every person who's done any kind of healing work can relate to, right? They've been here, where you're quietly, constantly looking for someone else to confirm that what actually happened to you mattered, right? To validate what you're feeling, right? This is where like sometimes trauma bonding comes in, right? To say, okay, you have that experience and then I have this experience, and like we can bond in that, right? And even when I say that out loud, right? It's like that's the sad part about it, is that we're really just wanting, like, we want to ultimately confirm that what happened to us mattered. It did affect me, right? It's the hardest thing for somebody to say it did affect me afterwards, because there's such a wound there. But it's like, you're allowed, the fact that it happened could be bad enough in itself, but you're allowed to still be affected by it. You're allowed to have the emotions come up about it. You're allowed to not have it be, oh, I healed from this thing and I never have to open that door anymore. Like it's a lot of times there's judgment that comes with that. I know, because I've lived there for years. Like there is spaces where I've talked about certain stories where, I couldn't admit to myself that it actually affected me or that it mattered. And so in seeking that, in maybe telling the story or talking about it, right, until I got to admit that to myself, it's like, God, when I told this story, I actually believed me that it happened. It didn't matter if someone else believed me, right? I got to explain, or see okay, this happened and I am the way I am because of this, but then I can see what I can do with this. Like I started to move out of being the victim in the story. And then, like you said, alchemizing, well, what can I do with this story? And how can I start to listen to what my body needs so that I'm not seeking out this permission from other people to acknowledge and feel what I know my body's already feeling. And because when you're feeling that, sometimes it's hard to take a look at it. It's hard to sit with that discomfort, but like staying with yourself in that is like, you really are the one that give you permission to, once you admit and can be honest with yourself that, hey, this is allowed to affect you. You can decide what you want to do with it too.
And sometimes that phase can be pathologized as like a weakness, but that's a specific kind of relational wound, right? When someone's pain was minimized or dismissed or explained away, often repeatedly, then the nervous system learns to outsource that validation. Because like, well, I can't trust myself with this information. I can't believe myself with what's happening, right? And it stops trusting its own signal. So then you're going to be programmed essentially to look outward, because inward doesn't feel reliable anymore. I've rejected that intuition for long enough that it's like, nah, girl, you got it. Go find somebody else to believe your sad story, you know? And healing gets to change the source. So eventually you stop saying, you know, please understand why this hurt me. And you start being able to say, okay, this shaped me and I can understand it for myself now. And the authority becomes something that starts to get recentered internally, as opposed to something that you're trying to outsource.
Yeah.
And when this goes into like when the story stops hijacking the room, because another marker of this same shift is that we get to allow the story to stop taking over. You can talk about it without your entire nervous system activating anymore. Like we're not getting physical symptoms as a result of it anymore. Like you don't immediately go into the spiral. You don't lose the thread of your current conversation and you go into that like freeze response, right? Without needing to spend the next 2 days recovering from saying it out loud, like in regret of, oh, like I really wish I wouldn't have said that. And you're like in your head about it.
Yeah. Integrated. That's really the word, right? Yeah. Like it's not erased. It's not forgotten. It's not looked over, right? It's not gotten over. Like it's actually integrated. It becomes the part of you without being the center of you. Like it becomes a part of your journey rather than laying out what your whole journey can look like. And that feels different in the body too, because you can actually hold the thing and still stay present. You don't like it's, I think in storytelling, right? It's like being able to tell the story in a way where if you're having that response from it, okay, there's some work to do there, right? But can you hold it in a way now where it's like, okay, I'm holding it and I'm actually so okay. I'm not having the nervous system response of freeze, fawn, or flight. It's like, okay, we're still here, right? And being able to talk about it sometimes is the hard thing that you can't, until you start to do it, you can't see that your feet are still on the floor. You're still staying with yourself, right? Oh my God, I'm catching myself that I talked about that really hard thing and I was actually okay. Right. And oh God, I stayed with myself here. Like I'm learning through the uncomfortable feelings, what regulation, that's what is actually most supportive. And it's actually what support is before. That's actually what support is, that allows the pressure to be lifted a little bit, like even made possible that you can actually move through this and know that when you have these spikes that feel like, oh my God, like the trauma or I'm having a stress response, right? Mm-hmm. Like that I can come back down and regulate myself with that.
But what happens when you're afraid to move past the story?
Okay, so that's also something where that makes that shift complicated, right? Because it's not just hard because healing's hard, right? It's hard because sometimes if we're holding on to the wound, right? We're holding on to the wound because we don't actually know. This is the realest part. Like we don't actually know who we are without it. Mm-hmm. And sometimes this is like, if we can just see it in this way of like, God, how much more compassion I would have for myself if I stopped trying to just keep moving on from it. And it's like the version of myself that it's actually been serving myself in some way, shape, or form to stay attached to this story because that's what has kept me safe, right? That's who I know. And so it's like, if who am I without this story? Yeah, it gets to be like exciting. But when you're in it, it's like, oh, fuck. Okay, well, who am I without this? What happens if I stop being the person who just survived this thing and got to be just the person, right? Like the story attached to your identity, right? And the identity, even if it's a painful one, it feels like something to hold on to. It actually was serving you at some point because that was keeping you safe. So pain, right, became familiar. And this is where a lot of people can relate because they relate through that pain, aka trauma bonding. Pain became maybe how people knew you, or how you came into certain communities, or how it's like, what does your story look like without the main thing that you originally came in and identified as? And that's the thought. It's like letting go of that. It can feel like disappearing. It can feel like hiding because it's like, gosh, I don't even actually know myself without this story. So now to allow other people to witness me without this story is like, oof.
We also see it all the time, right? It's a big marquee of big, hugely influential people, right? Like name one person who is a quote unquote guru, for lack of a better word, or like a public figure that is professing a transformation or a change opportunity that doesn't have a big story that showcased the way that they overcame something really, really difficult and hard. And so that's going to resonate with a lot of people of like, oh, I have to have like my thing that defines me, right? But when the wound becomes load bearing, when the story is what connects you to people or explains your behavior or justifies who you are, that's where releasing it feels like a big structural risk. And what's interesting is like it's usually not about the past at all. It's about not having an identity on the other side of it yet. Like I haven't put enough energy and focus into who I am without that thing. And it's not to say that you can't use that as a part of what made you who you are, or as a part of, your origin story. But when the wound fills the space because nothing else has moved in, then there's an absence of something. There's an absence of substance, and there's more work that needs to be done in that empty space.
Yeah. And I think, just even being able to acknowledge that of like, I mean, everyone has space where they can grow, right? It's like, are you giving yourself a bridge to even walk yourself to that space and get curious about it, right? And, I think it's important as we're talking about this because for our listeners, right? If anyone is sitting in that right now, know that you don't have to build the new identity before you've left the old one. Before you let the old one go, like the new one doesn't have to be built, right? You can slowly be letting that go. I think I've just gotten to a point in my journey where I'm actually okay with letting it go. And it feels scary as hell, but it's also like the bridge that has gotten me there. It's like it's not an option to keep staying there. Like you will eventually get uncomfortable there, and you just have to be willing to be okay in the in-between for a minute. And I can think back vividly, even just a couple years ago, being so in the in-between and knowing that, okay, this is where I'm at right now, that's fine. But even getting to the other side, like I don't have to have it all figured out, right? I can still be in this and still be having shifts. I can, being where I'm at right now is not a failure. And, I get to get excited and curious about what's on the other side of this. And it doesn't have to be this done deal. I think the in-between is, like we've talked about in previous episodes, it's not talked about enough because it's not the end product. It's not the end result. It's not why you signed up for the thing, right? Like that's what we're wanting up front. So I want to pause here and ask you, like, for anyone listening, what story are you still surviving instead of witnessing yourself through? That's a very real statement I had to ask myself. And I didn't have an answer for a while, right? But when I did have an answer, it wasn't about fixing the answer that came up. It was just to name it. It was just to get some things on my radar of like where I was operating from, right? And this is where, like, when we talk about alchemizing, where pain can start to be the very medicine, right? And when that medicine can come from yourself, right? It's like, yes, ceremonies and things like that can get us there. Psychedelics have helped get me there. Because I blocked that access to myself, right? But this is the piece where I love this. When you start to do this work internally, it's like, yes, we can use different modalities to help us, but ultimately, this is something that we do. And it's because when these things come back up, we get to keep meeting ourselves different. And we've been talking about this shift that happens here. And it is a personal shift. This is not something that's going to just come externally. This is something internally on your time in whatever space you feel safe enough to do. And there's a moment where this thing becomes something else, where you realize like, oh, that thing I went through, it's actually, someone else is in the middle of that. And here, like, your voice is the thing that actually may help someone breathe a little bit easier, right? Because you can talk about it. And that's something that, I mean, when you're in it, you can't see that this could benefit anyone else but yourself. But it's like when you can own it, it's like this is where it starts to begin to become something else, because like the pain doesn't just have to be your pain. Like it can be medicine to someone else by you being able to alchemize your pain. And that is why, when women share their stories, and I'm not saying share your deepest, darkest secret on Instagram or Facebook, right? But start sharing them publicly, not for the attention, but because it stopped being personal to them and it started being about, God, I'm doing myself such a disservice if I keep sitting on this. Like, I can do something with this. I've moved myself through this. Now if I'm doing so many other people a disservice, that if they can find even like a glimpse of hope or, comfort, or just ultimately seeing that vulnerability is a strength there, that you can own this and that this doesn't have to define you. God, that's the medicine.
It's also about like shifting away from the fear, and the shame. Like, can I come to a place of authenticity? And when I can show up in that way, where something that historically I held a lot of shame around, and I can allow myself to be witnessed in that. We've talked about this before, and like I think when we did our retreat episode, it's like that's where genuine, like deep connection happens.
Yeah. I'm like, don't choke on your words here.
And it's going to change how that story sits with you, because it's no longer just a wound that you carry. It can become a tool that has a function, right? It can create connection instead of costing you connection, where it was historically. Like if I have shame around something, it's going to cost me the type of connection that I want, as opposed to something that can be a conduit for it. And your story, again, it's a signal, and it can be a signal to someone, or permission slip to someone who really needs it at that time.
Yeah. Yeah.
So homework time.
Always. Like every episode of like homework time, Lincoln.
So ideally, what I'd like you to walk out of this episode with is that healing is not the absence of the story, right? It's when the story can loosen that grip on your nervous system, and when you can hold it without it holding you. So if you're still in that reliving phase of like, I can't go there, it's going to trigger all this emotional response, like that's okay. That's just shows that you could use some support. And if you're in between, it's not a place that you necessarily will stay stuck in. Just take your time with yourself, because that's a part of the integrating process. And if you're on the other side, start looking back, because it's a good thing to look back. You can reflect on it. It's like, it's not going backwards. There's a lot of wisdom there that can be really useful in that.
Right. Right. What happens when the story starts becoming a good thing to tell, right? Like when you can start to,
Yeah.
I mean, fuck, we built a whole business out of it. Like that is, it's special. It's special. And that's where when you can look back, like that's the ownership. That's where it becomes, you're not taking your story personal anymore, but it is your personal story, like your personal testimony, which I think is really cool to see. And I can definitely admit it's like that's not something I always saw when in the in between of it. Or it's not something that you always see in the forefront. But when you can look back, or you can start to catch yourself that you're handling it differently or handling it a little better than last time or whatever, like that's the stuff that needs acknowledgement. So if that one person is you that's listening, if you're resonating with anything that we're saying and you're somewhere in the middle of this process, wondering like, God damn, when the fuck will I feel like myself again? Right. I just want you to know you're not behind. You're not behind. And, the story is not the destination. It's just the road that leads you to this next version of yourself. And every version of yourself has gotten you here. Right. And wherever you are in that spectrum is exactly where you're supposed to be. Can we not shame any space of where we are in the journey, because it is a journey. And yeah, we're here with you in the journey. That's the main piece that I think when we, yes, we have a podcast. Yes, we do this for a living, and we are also women too. And we own that we've gone through this and we're able to now alchemize that and help other women with it. But this is something that everyone navigates in their own way.
Yeah. And if you're feeling stuck in that reliving phase, or you feel like you're caught in that repetition loop, then reach out, get the support that you need.
Yeah. A lot of times it is 9 times out of 10 support. I know that it definitely was that for me, for sure.
Yeah.
So, as always, guys, we really, really thanked. Look, Spotify, I went on there the other day. Shout out to one of my clients. She has been leaving comments and, what is it on Spotify? I think it's like it's not really like Apple where you can like rate it. I think it's like direct comments, but YouTube, like the subscribers, we only have like 30 subscribers on there, which is so good because that number was so low before. So you're obviously making it to the end of the episode, and we
see you out here. We appreciate you.
We appreciate you. And, anything else for them? Like we are wait, I have something else. We are so excited. Like first of all, May is flying the hell by, right? And we have our retreat coming up, and we have one freaking spot left. And we're so excited to be in Costa Rica with these women. And if you're listening to this and you've been receiving some emails that are tugging at something in you, it's worth the conversation. It is.
100%.
It's worth the conversation. Like, share, subscribe, do all the things that we normally say at the end. And we're happy that you listened to another episode today, and we will see you next week.
See you next time.
Bye.
When was the last time you felt truly clear and at peace?
Maybe you've been asking yourself, why can't I just feel peace?
Most of us don't just need another escape. Vacation is great and all, but what we really need is integration.
When's the last time you gave yourself permission to play? As adults, we don't do that enough. And this is to be messy, curious, maybe even a little wild, like the little girl you used to be. She's still here. She's just waiting for you to say it's safe to come out again.
That's why we created Peace, Play, Love. For 7 days in the Costa Rican jungle, luxury meets real life with story work, somatic practices, and nervous system tools that help you not just reset here, but take that peace home with you.
I've been bringing women to Costa Rica for years because this land and the people have been a part of my own healing journey. And all of us have left transformed for the better.
At Peace, Play, Love, we'll slow down together, we'll breathe, we'll meet the guilt, the shame, the exhaustion, and learn how to alchemize them into permission, into softness, into peace that you can actually feel in your body.
This retreat is deeper than a pause. We're not just unplugging you, we are rewiring you.
I've witnessed women These women laugh from the depths of their souls, feel reconnected to who they truly are, tear up from actually taking in a sunset, and watching as their shame, their stress, and fears all float off into the great beyond.
You'll map your next season with clarity and leave with insight to keep your nervous system regulated and your choices aligned long after you return. We keep it small on purpose, just 9 women, each supported through high-touch coaching, sisterhood, and real community.
The women who come, they're do-it-allers. They show up no matter what. They climb the mountain with the weight of the world on their back and a smile on their face, because that's just what they do. But they're looking at this next chapter of their life, and they know that they don't want it to feel like the last 5 did.
You don't have to hold it all anymore. You don't have to keep proving you're okay. This retreat is your safe place to land, and it's your invitation to play again.
There's something magical in this land that helps you find the magic in you. The light turns on, the weight lightens, and from there, you decide what the next chapter will be and who you will be inside of that on your terms. This is the magic of saying yes to you.
If you're craving calm and clarity that sticks, this is your invitation to join us in Costa Rica in June. Come exhale with us and remember who you are beneath the noise.